I tell you this all the time. We read from the Torah once a month on the first Shabbat of the month, a Parsha, and we read a Parsha of a Parsha because most of the time there are at least 100 verses, and there's no way on God's green earth you can comment on 100 verses. And there is a connection between, obviously, the choice of Numbers 6 and Acts 21. The connection is obvious, but in reading Acts 21, you have to talk about another issue, and that issue is an issue that's been going around the Messianic community since the Messianic community was rebirthed in 67. So, without further ado, let's read the two verses that Carrie read in Numbers 6. It says, "The Nazarite will shave his consecrated head at the entrance to the tent of meeting, take the hair removed from his consecrated head and put it on the fire under the sacrifice of peace offerings. When the ram has been boiled, the Kohen is to take its shoulder, one loaf of matzah from the basket, and one unleavened wafer, and place them in the hands of the Nazarite after he has shaved his consecrated head." This section in Numbers, number 6, this part of the section that we just read is describing the ceremony required when a man came to the close of the time of his vow. At the close of his vow, this is how he would bring that vow to closure. I think we have to read the vow more importantly than the closure of the vow, and that's in the beginning of Numbers 6, verses just 1 and 2 for now. Adonai said to Moshe, and just as a side note, guys, it's very hard for me to just gloss over that. If you want to hear the voice of God, read the Torah. It's all over it. Adonai said directly, remember they spoke face to face. Adonai said to Moshe, quote, "Tell the people of Israel, when either a man or a woman makes a special kind of vow, the vow of a Nazarite, consecrating himself to Adonai." So first and foremost, I want you to see that it wasn't just a male thing. Any person, any Jewish person, any person of Israel, and those who became Gerim, they left Egypt. Egyptians left Egypt with the people of Israel, obviously, and they connected themselves, and it's called Gerim, to the people of Israel. So those people as well, because they were one, there was one law for the Jew and the Gentile according to Numbers. And so whether that man was Egyptian or Hebrew, woman Egyptian or Hebrew, they could take this vow. So let's look at the words I highlighted. First, I want you to see the word vow as nada, which sounds very much like the Nazarite word. It's a derivative. And a nada, a vow, is a solemn promise to God. And that's why Yeshua spoke so eloquently about vows in his Sermon on the Mount, saying, don't sign a paper. Just let your yes be yes and your no be no. If you tell you God you're going to do something, then just do it. And if you tell somebody you're going to do something, then just do it. So think about the vows you make. Don't be too quick to enter into a vow. There's something different about this particular vow because it's called a special vow. And look at this word. The Hebrew word is palah, and it means the vow is marvelous, the vow is wonderful, and the vow is extraordinary or extraordinary, beyond the usual. Why is this vow so extraordinary? Well, let's look at what a Nazarite means. It's a Nazir, and it means to consecrate. A Nazarite is a devoted one. And the root word is very telling. Nazar, which sounds very much like the word itself, is to dedicate or to separate. So it was a person who committed themselves onto the Lord. They would commit their time, they would commit their talents, and they would commit their treasures solely to serve the Lord and to glorify his name. So a Nazarite was fairly obsessive, I think. I don't think you would find a great many Nazarites in the 21st century, especially in the grand old US of A. Sadly enough, I think the multitude of the body of believers sees sometimes God is serving them. Continuing on in Numbers 6, 3 through 8. It says, he is to abstain from wine and other intoxicating liquor. He is not to drink vinegar from either source. He is not to drink grape juice, and he is not to eat grapes or raisins. As long as he remains a Nazir, a Nazarite, he is to eat nothing derived from the grapevine, not even the grape skins or the seeds. Throughout the period of his vow as a Nazarite, he is not to shave his head until the end of the time for which he has consecrated himself to Adonai. He is to be holy. That's what Kerry read about shaving the head at the end of the vow. He is to let the hair on his head grow long. Throughout the period for which he has consecrated himself to Adonai, he is not to approach a corpse. He is not to make himself unclean for his father, mother, brother, or sister when they die, since his consecration to God is on his head. Throughout the time of his being a Nazarite, he is holy for Adonai. I'm going to take this off. I knew this was going to happen. There was no way around it. So, Numbers 6 through 8 are the prerequisites, if you will. So there's just three. Neither eat nor drink of the fruit of the grapevine, no vinegar, wine, grape juice, grapes, or raisins. Would not cut his hair, and would not go near a dead body. There's just a few things you need to know, I think, and then you can research this and you can study this on your own. There's a lot written on it, I'm sure. First of all, the Nazarite vow was voluntary. It was just voluntary, just like the burnt offering. The first offering is a voluntary offering. It's not mandatory. And I think when it comes to serving the Lord, it's voluntary. You can't tell the Lord that he forced you. He just doesn't do that. It's your decision. And so it's voluntary, and it usually lasts 30 days. There's some writings in the Mishnah, which is part of the Talmud, 6,200 pages, and it states that a Nazarite vow could last as much as 100 days. And there was a few in the Bible who had a lifelong Nazarite vow. Samson being one. Who else? Samuel being another. And who else? Yochanan the Immerser, a.k.a. John the Baptist. Now, people think Yeshua was a Nazarite, right? We have him depicted with long hair. Did Yeshua have long hair? No. It's not important, but that's how the whole world sees him. He wasn't a Nazarite. He never took a Nazarite vow. He lived in Nazareth, so he was a Nazarene. And people always confuse a Nazarene with a Nazarite. And I'm just here to tell you, without trying to be belligerent, do you know how much else the body of believers confuses? Do you have any idea how many times I'll turn something on when we're at a hotel and listen to something and be like, oh my God, I can't believe he just said that. Any first century male had short hair because it's an abomination, if you will. It's humiliating to have long hair. We know that from 1 Corinthians 11:14. A man shall not have hair like a woman. So, did Yeshua have long hair? I don't believe so. Did Yeshua have light skin? Blue eyes? I mean, it's not the gospel according to Leonardo da Vinci, guys. Is that important? No. No, but I just want you to be aware that there's things that are taught that are inaccurate. And so I would go to the source. I would always go to the source. So 30 days, I know it sounds to you like, well, that's not such a big deal, being dedicated for 30 days. If your mom or dad passed away in those 30 days, you couldn't go to their funeral. Whose watch or phone is boop, 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 boop. Can you please shut that off, for God's sakes? Thanks. 2, wine speaks of human joy. I don't want to belabor the point. I don't like to drink because I don't like the taste of alcohol. I've tried many different kinds, and I just don't like it that much. Every now and then, I'll have a drink, but I just don't like it. But know this, the Bible doesn't speak against drinking alcohol. Now, the Bible speaks against being drunk, and I think a couple of you need to read that scripture. But with that being said, there are 250 million strong of a denomination that teaches that the wine at the wedding was grape juice. It's just not true. Now, how 250 million brilliant people can be hoodwinked by that, it's like anything else. When you're taught something, you believe it. But at a wedding in Judaism, they last 7 days in the first century. And that's because everybody comes. Some people come for an hour, some people come for the week, some people show up in the middle, because it's the highest form of joy, a wedding in Judaism. Why is it the highest form of joy? Because in that day, people didn't fornicate. They didn't have premarital sex. So in order to have sex, you had to get married. Because there was no birth control, when you got married, you immediately started having sex. Therefore, you'd get pregnant. Therefore, you'd produce little Jewish kids. And those Jewish kids would learn the Torah, and they would learn the ways of God, and they would honor God. So you would change the spiritual atmosphere of the universe. So God was being glorified. The people were being glorified. So that was the celebration. And part of that celebration, there was wine. And at any wedding for 7 days, you always serve the best wine first. Because towards day 5, nobody knows the difference. So come day 5 at a Jewish wedding, you wouldn't know the difference between Chateau Latour 66 and Mad Dog 2020. It doesn't make any sense, guys, when they said, who serves the best wine last? I'm not telling you to drink. What I'm telling you is to read the Bible. And don't make comments that aren't from the Bible. They're traditions of men. They abrogate the Word of God. And that was the only thing Yeshua had a hard time with. You don't see him attacking the world. You see him coming after the religious community with their religious traditions. Wine speaks of human joy. Long hair speaks of being a sign of humiliation and shame for a man. And a dead body causes defilement. So the Nazarite, there's very little we have about the Nazarite. And it's very glossed over in many circles. But he was an enigma. He was an enigma to the world. To be joyful, he withdrew from joy. To be strong, he became weak. And in order to love his relatives, he denied them. The bottom line was the dedication of the Nazarite was a challenge to every Israelite to follow the Lord wholeheartedly. People who are wholly devoted, they make religious people nervous and uncomfortable. They don't make the world nervous because most of the time the world could care less. But people who are on fire cause lukewarm people to have a hard time. Now that's the Nazarite. It's clear and concise. Like I told you, you can study more, but that's a lot for you to know about the Nazarite, if you ask me. Now we go into Acts 21, the New Testament section, and there is somewhat of a Nazarite vow being taken here, if you will, or coming to the close of it. But this scripture is going to really cause us some issues, I'm sure. It's Acts 21. Shaul, a.k.a. Paul, is coming back from his 3rd missionary journey. And he comes to Jerusalem. It says, in Jerusalem, The brothers received us warmly. The next day, Shaul and the rest of us went in to Yaakov, James, and the elders who were present. Just so you know, of course, any journey, when they go home, they're going to report to their congregations. That's what Paul is doing. It's very, very simple. Nothing's changed. There are people out there today, I don't know who they are, but they say there's no need to have a synagogue or a church, the local body. They are dreadfully wrong. There was a congregation in Jerusalem, and they say, well, there's no need for leaders. James was the leader. There's no need for elders, and they had elders. So I don't know where they came up with this, but all I can say is it's a spirit of rebellion. And so they sit in their home by themselves. They forsake the gathering. They break the commandment, and they're usually miserable. And sadly enough, everybody they come in contact with, they share that misery with. No, there is no perfect congregation because it's made up of you and I. But that doesn't give us a right to forsake the gathering. And the reason why we come together is so maybe some of that friction will whittle me down, and maybe some of my friction will whittle you down, and maybe we'll get the message. You can't find a perfect congregation because it's made up of imperfect people. And when I say imperfect people, that is every single solitary member. So they greeted him. They're very excited. They're very excited for what he's doing. He's going out to the nations. They're just dealing with the people in Jerusalem. He's gone out to the nations. It's exciting. It's exciting to think that a Messianic congregation in Macon, Georgia, this is not New York City, this is not Los Angeles where some of my friends are ministering, and yet in Macon, Georgia, we have probably the largest Messianic congregation in the country, legitimately Messianic. Not somebody whose great-great-great-great-grandmother had a piece of matzah one Passover and they have a picture of her. And we have congregations all over. It is extraordinary as it comes because it does not make any sense in the natural. So Shaul was telling all that God was doing among the Gentiles, non-Jewish people, through his preaching. On hearing it, hallelujah, they praised the Lord. But they also said to him, hey brother, not only is God doing some great things among the Gentiles, but look what he's doing with the Jews here in Jerusalem and Samaria. And so there's tens of thousands. Thank you. 40,000, 60,000, 80,000, tens of thousands of Jews. But look what he says. They're believers. They're messianic. And they are all zealous for the Torah. When you are born again, one of the telltale signs, guys, is you are zealous for God's law. Because what was on stone tablets now goes on the tablet of your heart. It goes on the inside, and it's on the tablet of your heart, and then there's a new spirit that they promised. Isaiah and Jeremiah and Ezekiel. It said a spirit would come into your heart, and it would mix with the Word of God and cause you to walk it out. It's almost like you don't have a choice. It's like you want to so bad, it becomes your highest joy. This is what it means to be born again. This is what it means to be a new covenant believer. If you say you're a New Testament believer and you're talking about a born-again experience, you're using the wrong terminology. I believe in the New Testament and I believe in the Old Testament, but I'm a new covenant believer. I am under a new covenant. The Abrahamic covenant, the Mosaic covenant, the Israeli covenant, the Davidic covenant, and the new covenant, Jeremiah 31. And it spoke that when we would become born again, the Word of God would be written on our heart, and the Spirit of God would come inside. and cause us to walk out God's ways, which means we would desire it above everything else. And they're zealous. So they're sharing with him, Paul, while you were away, we've got tens of thousands of Jewish people. See, most Jewish people today, no disrespect, they are not zealous for the Torah. It's just the opposite. I got Jews telling me that I'm not Jewish. They don't go to synagogue. They're eating pork and shellfish. They don't celebrate the feast. So what, your name is Hershberg and that makes you Jewish? Bubby, that's not going to cut it with the Lord. I got news for you. I got news for you. Now, what they have been told, now, Rabbi, this sounds like a rumor. Some things never change. Rumors have been around since the beginning of time, and they'll be around till Yeshua comes back. Now, what they have been told about you, Paul, is that you are teaching all the Jews living among the Goyim to apostatize from Moshe, telling them not to have a Brit Milah, circumcision, for their sons, and not to follow the traditions, the laws of God. Let's continue on. What then is to be done? They will certainly hear that you have come. They know you're back, and this is the rumor that's going around. So do what we tell you. We have 4 men who are under a vow. The only vow that's mentioned in the Old Testament is the Nazarite vow. Do I know for sure it's a Nazarite vow? No, but when he explains it a little bit, it sure sounds like it. Take them with you, be purified, because they would be purified at the closing of the vow, and pay the expenses connected. They would have to get a haircut by a Levite. You know, makes a little money on the side, what can I tell you? So they'd have to go to the synagogue and shave their head because the hair would have to be burned. Then everyone will know that there is nothing to these rumors which they have heard about you, but that on the contrary, not only are you not telling people to do those things, but you yourself are living by the Torah, Paul. However, in regard to the Goyim, the Gentiles, non-Jews, it's not an ugly term, even though sometimes in Jewish circles they think it is. Sometimes in Gentiles, all it means, it's descriptive of somebody who is not biologically Jewish. But in regard to the Goyim who have come to trust in Yeshua, we all joined in writing them a letter with our decision that they should abstain from what has been sacrificed to idols, from blood, from what is strangled, and from fornication. Those 4. Finishing with the last verse. The next day Shaul took the men, purified himself along with them, and entered the temple to give notice of when the period of purification, would be finished, and the offering would have to be made for each of them. Paul, like I said, is finished his 3rd and final mission. It's in Asia Minor, which Asia Minor, some people know it as Anatolia. It's Turkey, basically, right above Israel. And also a little bit of Greece, when he went to Cyprus, of course, to find out that there's an ugly rumor being spread among the Jews about him. They're saying that Paul is basically preaching against the law of Moses. They're saying that Paul is saying, you're not under the law. Now, I got news for you guys. Up till the Gospels, there was no problem. Yeshua said, I did not come to abolish the law. This was out of his mouth. But to fulfill, which doesn't mean I didn't murder anybody, so you can. Please, Christians, hear me. It's not a good thing to say that the law was nailed to the cross. Your sins were nailed to the cross. And sins equal lawlessness. So if your lawlessness was nailed by the bloody, horrific execution of the Son of God, how much more lawful should you be now? Should we sin more so grace can abound more? And the answer in the Bible is heaven forbid. Now, do they mean that? Probably not. There's probably not a decent pastor in the world, Christian pastor, who would say sin more. Not one. But you can't have it both ways. You can't say the law is nailed to the cross and then put up the 10 Commandments and say read them and obey them. You sound like a spiritual schizophrenic. Now, I know they don't realize that, but I'm here to tell you, once Paul came on the scene, he confused the world. Peter said he is very, very hard to understand. And the Jewish people, Orthodox Jews, I'm not talking about Jews in name only. I'm talking about Jews who read the Torah every day and read the Talmud every day and go to services every morning to pray. When they look at Jesus' writings, they say, this guy appears to be the most Torah-observant Jew that ever lived. Rabbi Pinchas Lapid said he is the most Torah-observant. But this Paul, he went the other direction. And he told the Jews, no need to obey the Torah. I'm going to show you that he never, ever said that. And after you see it, you should never, ever say that. This is worthy to break down. It's going to take a little bit of time, but we have some time. And don't worry, is the air conditioning working? It's not working? It is working? Okay. Is there anybody that can check on it to see if it's working? He did? Okay. All right. Forgive me. I just see people going like this, and it's, Samuel, we've been there where it was 114 degrees, so I know he's okay. And yeah, it's so hot sometimes for 24 hours you sweat, and there's no relief because there's no place you can go to get air conditioning. Yeah, different ball game, huh, guys? Okay. Let's just break this down a little bit, okay? Let's look at Acts 21, 24. He's already come home. We know about the rumor. It says, now what they have been told about you is that you are teaching the Jews among the Goyim in the nations to apostatize. The laws nailed to the cross. Okay? What then is to be done? Because he obviously said to them, that's not true. That rumor is a lie, an ugly lie. So what should we do to let them know that's not true? They're going to hear that you come, and they're going to be pretty upset with you, pal. So do what we tell you. Now, he takes the vow with them. He doesn't just pay for their vow. He takes the vow with them. Let me show you just 5 little verses, 5 lines of scripture, okay? Acts 18:18. Just a couple. It's not exhaustive. You can see this all throughout the book of Acts. It says in 18:18, Shaul remained for some time, then said goodbye to the brothers and sisters. This is in his second, off to Syria. After having his hair cut in Chenchia, which is the east part of Corinth, a port city, because he had taken a vow. What is this guy doing, taking a Jewish vow, if he wasn't aligned with the law of Moses? Maybe he's being a chameleon. I know, that's what they say. Christian community says, well, he's all things to all people to save a few. Acts 20:16, Shaul had decided to bypass Ephesus on his voyage in order to avoid losing time in the province of Asia because he was hurrying to get to Jerusalem to celebrate Shavuot. What is he doing keeping the feasts? Still being a chameleon? Doesn't sound like it. And if you read in context, no. Nope. Let's look at another verse. 23:6. He's before the Sanhedrin, and it consisted of Sadducees and Pharisees, the legal council, the boys who ran the show, the religious order, if you will, of the time. It says, Shaul shouted, brothers, I myself am a Pharisee. I am a Pharisee? He was a Pharisee, but Pharisees are bad. Why is he saying he is one? He should have said, I was one. He is one? That goes hand in hand with people that tell me, well, Rabbi, Jesus was Jewish, and I'm like, what is he now? It's not past tense, it's present. Guys, please, I'm reading you scripture. I'm not trying to badger the witness, but you're going to have to give when you see it in the Word of God. You're going to have to give it up. I understand it's hard because you've been living 50, 60 years under a certain teaching. But I lived 30 years, and everybody told me Yeshua had nothing to do with the Jewish people. And when I read the Bible and I saw the Jewish genealogy, And I saw how Jewish he was, and I saw he was the prophesied Messiah according to, and they tell me, you can't be Jewish anymore. And I said, where does it say that in the Torah? That if I believe that Messiah's come, I can't be Jewish anymore. In fact, guess what? Yeshua brought me back to Torah. I was secular, okay? When I met him, I became a Jew's Jew. Brothers, I myself am a Parush and a son of Pharisees. Wow. Acts 25:8, he's before Porcius Festus, the governor of Judea, the procurator, who took over after Felix. Look what he's saying. In reply, Shaul said, I have committed no offense, not against the Torah. Guys, this is the end of his life. This is after 20 years of being saved, and he's saying, unless now he's a liar, is he breaking the commandments? He's saying before the governor, I have been totally Torah observant my whole walk. What do you say to that? Do you say, like some people say, well, he was Rabbi because he was Jewish, but because I'm not Jewish, I could commit adultery. I can overlook the poor and the widow and the orphan. I could not take care of the gray-headed. Guys, I could sit with the best of them, and they can't dance around this. And look at just one more verse. This is at the end of his life. Now he's in Rome. He's going before the emperor. He's going to witness to the emperor. Look at what God has done. But he's under house arrest. People are coming to see him. He says, after 3 days, Shaul called the meeting of the local Jewish leaders. Do you know why he called a meeting? Look at this. This is priceless. I don't have this verse on a screen, but the Lord just told me to read it to you. So I'm going to read it to you in Acts 28. This is the end. This is the last book written besides Revelation. All the other letters were written before. This is the grand finale. See, they're confused about him. They don't understand. Is he still maintaining his Judaism? Has he become a goy? What is the story? But look what it says in Acts. They said to him, we have not received any letters about you from Judah. In other words, we haven't heard what some of the Jews are saying. We don't know. And none of the brothers who have come from there have reported or said anything bad about you. We know nothing. But we do think it would be appropriate to hear your views from you. For all we know about this sect, Messianic Judaism, is that people everywhere speak against it. It is no different today. You guys don't speak to the source. You listen to the rumor mill and you become part of it. You cannot be a spiritual Jew. It's biology. And you can't take my Judaism away from me. It's my biblical right. Verses 21-22. So what does he do? He's in Rome and he wants to get the Jewish congregation, the synagogue in Rome, he wants to meet with them. He wasn't mean-spirited. He wants them to understand who he is. He says, when they had gathered, he said to them, brothers, isn't that beautiful? I was just down in South Florida with 200 traditional Jews, 35 rabbis, and I called them brothers. Brothers, although I have done nothing against either our people or the traditions of our fathers, at the very end of his life, before he's beheaded, he's saying, I abide by the Torah. That's your Paul. And this is not exhaustive. I'm just giving you 5 verses. It's all over Acts. So Paul appears to be lawful, yes? It's amazing. You'll read this to people and they'll be like, no, I disagree because I've been taught differently. How do I say this nicely? You were taught wrong. It was erroneous. Now let's go to verse 25 because this is tough. Now understand that he's referring, he says, but in regard to the Goyim, so clearly, Paul is teaching that a Jew who believes in Yeshua has to walk out the Torah, right? There's no argument there. The big $64,000 question is, what about the Goyim? And this is an argument that is going on like crazy. And nobody really has the exact answer, because I've heard all the arguments, and they're not there. So let's go into this a little bit. And I don't know if we're going to get there. But let's just talk about it, because I can't dance around this verse. I could have not put it in, and I could have just finished, but you can't do that. That's not appropriate. He says, so the Jews have to do it. I'm doing it, they have to do it. But however, in regard to the people of the nations, non-Jews, who have come to trust in Yeshua, so he's making a distinction. He's saying there's Jews who believe in Yeshua, there's Gentiles who believe in Yeshua. Now he's going to talk about the Gentiles. We all joined in writing them a letter. When was that? Jerusalem Council, what chapter in Acts? 15. And when did that take place? What year is it now? It's 10 years later. This isn't a week later. This is 10 years, and he's still holding on to his position. We all joined, Paul, Peter, and James, the elder and leader of the congregation in Jerusalem. The Messianic congregation in Jerusalem. The Messianic congregation, not the church, the Messianic congregation that was in Jerusalem. We all joined in writing them. Who's them? The Goyim, a letter with our decision. Now, I don't want to upset the apple cart, but this was their opinion, so it wasn't direct from God. Don't be upset. Give me a chance. But they're not saying, thus says the Lord. They're trying to figure this out, guys. Do you know why? Because in the first century, Gentiles were pagan. It's different today. Now our idols are our pension, our kids, our homes, so they don't look like idols. But back then, they had sex with their sisters, their children. They threw their children to the fire. In Hinnom, the Canaanites, that's why David said, I walked through the valley of the shadow of death. That was the valley. They had multiple wives. It was a free-for-all. They drank blood. I was with the Maasai tribe where they drink blood. I seen it. They offered it to me. I watched them. I was there witnessing to them. They were highly pagan. And as they were coming and accepting Yeshua, just like people did in Kenya and people did in India and people did in Australia, believe it or not, they don't know anything. So I have to put them under a leader there to teach them God's ways. They were perplexed. What do we do with these people? They are going to come into the fold as they receive Yeshua. Once they receive Yeshua and repent, they're in the fold. They've come through the door. Now what do we do with them? We have to teach them. How can I sit at the table with them after they just had sex with their daughter? I can't do that. I can't sit down with them when they open up their lunchbox and the animal has been dedicated to a demon, or the animal has been strangled, not slaughtered appropriately because it's one of God's creation. So they're just sitting and spitballing. This is what's happening. And they're saying, what do we do with them? We got to sit at the table. We have to have table fellowship. So they give them 4 rules. 3 of them, 75% have to do with food. Wouldn't you think they would say, hey, no adultery? Well, how about murder? Murder's a biggie. Don't you think murder's more important than animals strangled? Yes, it is, but they're trying to figure out, how do we sit with them? We got to be able to sit with them. You follow what I'm saying? Do you see the story? So do you really think that a Gentile believer, that a Christian only has to do those 4? Guys, it's ludicrous. It's so ludicrous, I don't even know how people believe it. And these are intelligent people. These are people that have advanced degrees, highly educated. Now, this debate is going to go on until Yeshua returns. But the overall question remains, should we sin more so grace can abound more? And whether you're Jew, Gentile, male, female, black, white, educated or not so educated, the answer is heaven forbid. Heaven forbid. There's one more thing I want to address in the 26th verse, and I'll tell you why. Look at verse 26. The next day Shaul took the men and purified himself along with them and entered the temple to give notice of when the period of purification would be finished. Let me tell you what Christian commentaries say. They actually scold Paul. You imagine the nerve? These guys are stroking their beards, sitting in an air-conditioned seminary, teaching a bunch of kids how to not hear from the Holy Spirit. This guy's been beaten with rods, left for dead. Every bone in his body has been broken. He has a love for the brethren like nobody I've ever seen in the history of the world besides Yeshua. And they say he was being politically correct. Paul, he took the vow because he was selling out to the Jewish people, falling under the ideology and the behavior to minimize offense, to become inoffensive. Welcome to the Church of America. Let's figure out how we can get more people. We get more people, we build a bigger building. We build a bigger building, we get a better band. And keep preaching to offend nobody. Don't offend a black. Don't offend a white. Don't offend an Indian. Don't offend a male. Don't offend a female. Don't offend the rich. Don't say anything about pensions. Don't offend the poor. Don't tell them it's a curse. Don't offend anybody. Make the message totally inoffensive, and thereby the only person you'll offend is Almighty God. Because what do we care? He's not even in the building. I'm after you guys. I want you guys in the building. Don't you see why I push so hard? Because if you're so easily offended, you can't be a Christian. You think you are. But one of the litmus tests for being mature in the Lord is how easily you're offended. And so God pushes it here, and you get offended and run. What are you going to do when the crap hits the fan? There is no shot that Paul is politically correct. And let me just show you 5 verses at the beginning of his first missionary journey when he went to Cyprus and ended up in Paphos, which is on the west coast, seacoast. Okay? Almost done. They ended up in Paphos where they found a Jewish sorcerer, a pseudo-prophet named Bar Yeshua. A fraud, a fake, somebody who was under demonic influence. He had attached himself. Nothing is new with demons. They love to attach themselves. They're disembodied spirits. They need someone. He attached himself to the governor, Sergius Paulus, who was an intelligent man. Now the governor had called for Barnabas. Who's Barnabas? Barnabas, son of encouragement, and Shaul, because he was very anxious to hear the message. This happened when we went. I spoke to the elders of villages. They were like, this white guy's here. We never met a white guy. He's come 9,000 miles. Let's hear what he has to say. It is no different. I don't have to reinvent the wheel. I don't have to go to an evangelism course. I just need to do it the way they did it and depend on the Holy Spirit. You can't get better than the Holy Spirit, guys. He was anxious to hear the message about God. But the sorcerer, Elymas, that's the way his name was translated, opposed them. You're always going to have opposition. Do you really think that when you're doing the Lord's work, that the Lord's going to pave a primrose path? And then when you have opposition, you sometimes say, well, it can't be the Lord. It is the Lord. He wants to see how willing you are to press. and to fight. Elymas opposed them. Elymas opposed Barnabas and Paul, doing his best, using his best power from the devil to get the governor away from the faith. Then Shaul, also known as Paul, filled with the Holy Spirit, he's going to be politically correct. He doesn't want to upset the governor. I mean, in Papos, they love the governor. Come on, guys, you're from the South. Are you kidding me? Look at what I'm trying to show you. There is no shot. This is the beginning of his mission. And he stares Elymas down. He locks eyes with that devil. He's forgot the governor. He's forgot why he's there. A power comes on him. And he stares him down. He says, "You son of Satan. You son of the devil, you full of lies, fraud, and all kinds of wickedness, evil. You enemy of everything good. Won't you ever stop making crooked the straight paths of the Lord? Now you won't see because you don't see." Sergius Paulus came to the faith. You don't see demoniacs here. You don't see it. You just see a lot of people who are incredibly lukewarm and lethargic and tolerant and relative and apathetic and moving in political correctness. And the only thing we could do is sit around other Christians in our fellowships and talk about how bad the world is. That ain't going to change anything. He was absolutely not politically correct because it is impossible to be filled with the Holy Spirit and be a believer and be politically correct. It is impossible. It is impossible. So we realize that the law is holy, just, and good, and that's great. We realize that Paul was no chameleon. He wasn't a sellout. He was absolutely sold out. But so, okay, that's good information. Rabbi, what's the message? Why did I bother coming here today? Well, one reason is because you're going to have a free lunch. But there's another reason. Yeshua was the ultimate Nazarite. He didn't take the vow for 30 days. He took it for 30 years. And it wasn't on the outside with long hair. It was on the inside. No wine, because he was a man of sorrows. People ask me, did Yeshua laugh? I'm sure he did, but not much. He cried way more than he laughed, and we have him crying in the scriptures, but we don't see him laughing. Does that mean he didn't laugh? He laughed, but he was a man of sorrows. He was broken. From the time he was born, Satan was crouching at his crib. Was he a humble man? He was with God. They were one in heaven. There was no man in heaven. He humbled himself and took the form of a man, and then took the form of a slave, and then took the form of a lamb, and then took the form of a worm to be crushed. Yes, he was a humble man of sorrows. Consecrated to the nth degree. Not for 30 days, but for over 30 years. He only did what the Father told him. Would he disrespect his mother? No. He was taking care of his mother when he was being executed. But do you remember what they said in Matthew 12 when he was preaching? Yeshua, your mother and your brother, they're outside. And you think Yeshua would have stopped and, what do you need, Mom? But what a teaching up. He turned to his audience and said, who are my mother and who is my brother? But those who do the will of my Father. He said in Acts 10, don't think I've come to bring peace, but a sword to separate mother against daughter. When I was in India preaching in this one little mud hut with 40 people, the women took oil and started to take their Hindu dot off. Do you know how badly they're going to get beaten? Do you know how badly they're going to get beaten and kicked out of their village? We come to the Lord and everybody applauds. and we take a public bath, and we have lunch. I'm just saying it's a different ball game. It's a different ball game. I come to bring a sword. And then a man says, I'll follow you, Yeshua. You will? Come. And he says, my dad's sick, which means he might be around for another 2-3 years. I'm going to go home and take care of that. And he says, let the dead bury the dead. These are your Savior's words, and we don't hear them anymore. We sit in a building and hear how to be a better husband and how to be less angry. We don't hear how to be a Nazarite. For me, guys, it's a sad state of affairs, because I cannot dance around Messiah's words. Now, I'm not up here telling you that I'm Joe Nazarite. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying that all of us have this calling. That's what I'm saying. And if we don't even sense the calling, we'll never ever walk it out. I think we need to be more of a Nazarite. Not on the outside, but on the inside. I want to tell you one other thing. It's obvious that I'm an obsessive person. I'm not happy about it. I try all the time to be less obsessive. I try all the time to go to a party and just maybe talk about sports. Sometimes I read a little bit just to be able to sound like I know what I'm talking about. And in a way, it's funny, but this is very serious to me, guys. This is as serious as anything I've ever told you. And I'm obsessive, and I don't like it because I think I push too much. You're a single mom, you're working 2 jobs. No, you don't have time to sit around and sing Kumbaya and read your Bible for an hour. And I don't need you to feel, worse than you already feel. I don't want that. I don't want to be responsible for that. You understand? And that's what I feel I'm responsible for all the time. Look, there was a story about a kid who was running around the track in a race at school, middle school. He's a little chubby. He really wasn't in any kind of cardiovascular shape. And his mother, as he came by her, yelled, "Daryl, run faster, Daryl, run faster!" And he turned with his red, rosy cheeks, out of breath, and he says, "Mom, I'm running as fast as I can. And I think some of you are running as fast as you can. So don't listen to me telling you to run faster. Okay? I'm a lunatic. Don't be like me. Okay? That's not the point. I've never stood up here and said, you need to do what I do. I've never given you my opinion much. I don't give you my opinion much. I throw scripture at you. But get with God and find out your mission. Find out your calling. Speak to God and let Him direct your paths. Let the Holy Spirit guide and direct you. Forget about my opinion, his opinion, or her opinion. But you're going to have to find out from the source. The overall message is, if Yeshua was so willing to die for our sins, shouldn't we be willing to die to our sins? Only He can change you. The things we don't like about ourselves, only He could change you. Only through the power of the Holy Spirit. And if there is no conviction, there can be no change. I want to invite these guys up real quick. I want to invite, before we eat, Arnie up first to just speak to you. You're going to have to, I don't have the headset, so you're going to have to speak to this, and this is not, you're going to have to hold it a little close so they can understand you. It is amazing that I have a guy from India, a guy from Africa, and a guy from Australia, and the only guy I can't understand is the white guy, so good luck. That's what happens when you're born in Manchester and you got that guttural, you know. All I heard the whole week was, ah, 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 ah. So we had to put an iPad around his neck so he would tell me what he was saying. No, you could probably hear him better than I. My hearing is all off. But Arnie, come on up here and say hello.
Wow, it's been a week and some, I can tell you. Where do I start? These two guys here, they're a league on their own. Brother Sammy, he takes his life in his hands every day he goes out. We don't really realise that, but he's a real life Paul, he is, and it's been an honour. Stevie goes to dangerous places too. You have different difficulties in where they are. I have mine, but they're nothing compared to what these lads do. And it's been an honour, absolute honour, to spend time with them. And obviously, my friend, he's been amazing. Just to spend time sitting at his feet, meeting you people here. This congregation's something really, really, really special, and it's to come halfway around the world. It's an absolute privilege. I've been in a few churches, but the compassion that's here, the reverence that's here, the holy people, you love the Lord, and it stands out a mile. And it's been my personal honour just to be around you, really has. I love Greg. He's my friend, he's my mentor, he's my rabbi. And just to be around him, it's wow. It was the best 50th birthday present I could have had, I'll tell you. That's all I wanted to do. We're small in Australia, but we're trying, and we're sharing. There's a need there for, like Greg said, a legitimate messianic congregation. That's what I want to take back and build. To just take a little piece of this and build it there. It's a privilege, it's an honour, and it's needed. And I don't know what else to say. This is my home, and I'm absolutely blown away that I'm here and spending time with you. I can't wait to come back. You want to come up, Sammy? Brother Sammy.
I thank God. I praise God first. I thank you, my lovely Rabbi and Sister Benetti and his family. I wrote many things. In this week we did together. After Rabbi received me on Thursday, I had a warm welcome. I met Brother Ani. He's a truly love. I am very blessed to be with them all this week. Brother Stephen is a very good man, lovely. I am very blessed. And after came here, Sister Benetti made 5 feasts, I think, 5 meals. And every day has a different meal, different taste. Rabbi took us a Japanese restaurant, Indian restaurant, American restaurant, Mexican, Korean, Thai. Ethiopian. Yesterday we had a Philippine, Mexican, Armenian, Colombian. Yes. Yes. You know, very hospitable. My wife told me that you are not going to eat in United States so much, you may lose some weight. It is good for... It is good. It is good for you for 1 month or 20 days like that. But I gain weight. and one side he fed me with different kinds of foods. Sister Banity is going to provide today Italian food tonight. And on the other side, he has been teaching us almost 16 hours. He taught us. I counted every time. I recorded some messages when he was teaching. They are awesome. First day he taught 4 hours, non-stop preaching. The next day he taught 3 hours. Oh, this rabbi don't know anything. He knows about only God, only love. He knows only, all the time he preaches about Bible, Bible, Bible. What Bible say? What Bible say? Close. You have to maintain relation with God. How we have to close to God. I wrote many things, but I'm not telling all those things. He taught about. Lot more time. It takes a lot more time. 16 hours he taught us. Besides last Shabbat and Wednesday, Shavuot, this sermon. I needed that. I wanted to hear those things. I recorded and also I have noted down those things. I am very much blessed spiritually and physically, and also I met a blessed brothers. I met a beautiful family, beloved family. My sister, she's a hard worker and she loves me so much. And while I was traveling in car, he was teaching. While I was sitting, he was teaching. While we were walking on the road, he was teaching. He left us only in the hotel. We missed it, teaching while we were sleeping. All the time. He never leave us. All the time. He did not speak anything about America, India, like that. He always wanted to teach. I am very much blessed. And you made this untouchable as touchable. And, I am an idiot, but you made me blessed. I was useless. You made me useful. And I was hopeless. You made me hopeful to many people, many children. So I am very blessed by your community, by Beit Yeshua family. Sometimes my mind stuck when I was thinking about my fast. I pinch myself. Is it true? Is it real? Am I running a school? Am I a preacher? It's unbelievable to me if I thought about my past. But you made possible. God made difference. You made difference. So this touchable is touching many people in India. This is because of you, saints. I never ever forget your love. So I am running a school, ministering in the midst of pastors. We have a home and clinics. We are helping many people in many ways. This is because of you. I never ever expected I can do all these things, but I am doing all these things because of you. You showed the Lord's love upon me. You made great difference. Isn't it God's love? Isn't it God's family? I believe that you are the God's family. I never ever seen such a great congregation like this. And this is, I believe that 1 John 4:8, this is the true love. This is agape love. You know that I cannot give you anything back, even though you love me. You are giving me, you are caring me. I believe this is God's love. Rabbi showed me when he was teaching, he is a captain. Samuel, ready? Yes, ready, brother. When he is caring, he cares like a son. I have seen him so many different characteristics. I love him so much. And before I close this, I'm going to read first Philippians chapter 1. Just I'm reading and closing this. This is a thankful prayer of Paul. How much Paul loving the congregation in Philippi. How much I love you. I can't tell you, I have no words in English. So I am reading this. Third verse. I thank my God upon every remembrance of you, always in every prayer of mine, making request for you all with joy. I remember every day. I pray for you every day. I request God for you every day with joy. For you, for your fellowship in the gospel from the first day until now, being confident of this very thing, that he who has begun a good work in you will complete it until the day of Messiah Yeshua. Just as it is right for me to think all of you. I am very proud to have you. I think of you every day. I pray for you every day. I thank God on behalf of you. Because I have you in my heart. You are in my heart. You are partakers of this work. Without me, this is impossible to do, even to run school in India. This is impossible. You made possible. So, God is my witness how greatly I long for you, how much I love you. Who knows? God only knows that, my heart. I thank you, each and every one of you. I thank you, sister. And also, I had four big feasts, like Abraham did to angels. First one, brother elder Joy and Mark, and other one, another elder David Johnston's family, and sister Denise and Roxana. And yesterday was a very big feast. It was from Philippines brothers, Armenian brother, and also Colombians brothers family. They made big feasts. I never ever forget these things. These are the really happiest memorial days in my life. Thank you very much. Shabbat Shalom to all. Shabbat Shalom, brother. Shabbat Shalom. I love you. I love you, Rabbi. I love you, family. I love you, brother.
Shabbat Shalom. To Yud He, Vav He, Elohim of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, be the glory. I can't tell you how much I'm honored to be standing before you today. I don't have enough words to thank BY family. I don't have enough words. Thank you for Samuel and Arnold for sharing what was also in my heart, which I cannot repeat. But allow me to go back to history a little bit and to say that about 10 years ago, I welcomed a stranger, I washed his feet in Nairobi, and then I went with him to a strange land for 7 days. And I was in danger because the people did not want me to go. But during those 7 days, I was a student listening to Rabbi teaching those people. And then 3 days, he came into my house. We had good time with my family. And he left Kenya on the day of Yom Teruah. It was during the Feast of Trumpet, the day you left Kenya. And I can tell you, since that day he left, I felt like a millennium had started in my life. And indeed, my life changed. It changed because of the words that I heard from him and the very wonderful things that I learned from him. And I decided to take them and to try them in my life. And I can tell you, those words have changed my life, my family, my congregation, and very many people in the country. He impacted something. And I'm standing here to tell you people, you don't know how much blessed you are. Sometimes you don't know. And if you know, get a hold on of Rabbi so well, because you're such a wonderful and amazing family. I will miss you so much. And thank you for every good thing that you've done to me, to my friends, and everything that you do to support us even in Kenya. The children that you support, and above all, I remember when he was leaving, he promised me that I will go and set a team to be praying for Kenya. When I was walking around you people, feeling your warmth as a family, some people told me, we've been praying for you, we have been praying for you. I can't tell you how much your prayer have been doing in my life. I can't tell you. I'm short of words. All I can say is that may Almighty continue to bless you, to continue to make you strong, continue praying for us. And let us continue being in faith and waiting for the return of our Savior. Yesterday, I felt like I was on Mount Zion in Philcon and Faith House, having 7 nations on the same table. And it was not talking issue about our country. It was about bread breaking. Let us break our heart to one another. Let us keep one another in prayer. And let us continue to live as a family. Receive much greetings from Kenya. I was given very, very many greetings to pass to you. This morning, I spoke to my wife and my daughter. As I was entering in, they were having their lunch after the service. And they said, pass the greetings to the family of Beth Yeshua. Receive those greetings. I want to say, Rabbi, thank you very, very much. I know Rabbi doesn't want us to talk so much about him, but sometimes we cannot avoid. We cannot. We cannot avoid. He has done so much. He surprised me just as he surprised you. And I knew this was the right time because having a visa to come to USA is not easy, especially coming from African country. But when he invited me within a very short notice, and then I hurried up to go and look for that visa, it was given like this. Rabbi, your family, everything that you've done to me, to us, we will never forget. And I came here, and I am here, and it will be 10 days, just like he was in Kenya for those 10 days. I am sure I'm not going back home the same man. I am better than I came in. I am. I don't know what to say because there's no much time. But you're a mind of your own. You are different. May you continue to have the same spirit. May you continue to share what is in you, and you speak it from the heart, and you speak the truth with power and humility. Thank you very much. May I receive your greetings to take them back to Kenya? Yes. I love you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Just so you know, that sometimes you'll see my frustration. It's not just frustration from nowhere. So that's my world. That's my element over there. I wish I could stay there forever. Because when a person has nothing, God is everything. When a person has everything, God is nothing. So, forgive me sometimes when it seems like I'm frustrated. But the fact is, I'm frustrated. And it's hard. Bernadette says, but they don't know. I said, Bernadette, are they living under a rock? What don't they know? She goes, they don't see it. They haven't experienced it. So I'll try to be careful. But let's remember how blessed we are. The first time I invited Samuel here, I didn't want him to come. Now I have a $150,000 cookie cutter house. None of my friends from New York are going to come and be impressed with it. To me, it's a palace. It's an absolute palace. And I'm not just saying that. I look at it and think, from the projects, that's a palace. I can't believe I live there. Every time I drive up, I can't believe it. And to have a new car. When I started in ministry, I was riding my bicycle at 31 years old, riding a bicycle, singing the whole way to work. So when I invited him the first time, and first Mani looks at the water from the faucet, and she looks up and she goes, sister, where is it coming from? But when I was outside crying, Samuel came out and said, what's wrong, brother? I said, I'm embarrassed, Samuel. I'm thankful, but I'm embarrassed. He just touched my shoulder and said, it's okay, brother. You're blessed. These three guys could convict the hell out of you. But they choose not to. They have three attributes going for them, which the great men of God knew. Humility, not trying to be humble. It's incredibly legitimate. It causes me to be envious. They're happy, even in the midst of their pain and sorrow. And they're legitimately holy. Humble, happy, holy. And I met all three of them by a phenomena. Wasn't even looking for it. And God didn't give me good. He gave me the best. I beg of you to know what you have here. Because sometimes when you take things for granted, it gets taken away. And most of the time, human beings, especially in America, they don't know what they have till it's gone. Don't learn from experience. Be wise. We'll say a prayer, and then we'll get you into the lunchroom. I'm going to take them in a little bit in there so you guys can, visit with them so they can get something to eat too, and they want to visit with you too, but I want to just take them in. They have a little table, but it's not like protected. Just have at it, have at it. But I just want them to be able to sit and relax too, okay? Tomorrow I have to take Samuel to the airport in the morning. Then tomorrow night I have to take Stephen to the airport. And then on Monday, and it's going to suck for me. It really is. I had the time of my life. I had the time of my life. They say a man who teaches learns twice. I learned a lot. And I'll continue to learn. Now may the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. And may the Lord lift up his very countenance upon you and give you his peace. In the name of the Prince of all peace, Yeshua. Yivarecha Adonai v'yishmerecha. Ya Adonai panav elecha v'hunecha. Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom. Shabbat shalom, guys. I love you.